The Deep Space Monitoring Station at Kepler 442 detected it first. A massive energy signature unlike anything in their databases. Lieutenant Commander Josef Martinez stared at the readings on his screen, his coffee growing cold as he tried to make sense of what he was seeing. "Computer, run diagnostics on Sensor Array 7, he commanded. "All systems functioning within normal parameters," came the mechanical reply. The signature was real. Something enormous had just awakened in the void between the spiral arms. Something that had been dormant for so long that space dust had formed a shell around it. Now that shell was cracking apart, revealing what lay beneath. 3 sectors away, the Altarian Empire's most advanced deep space telescope captured the first visual confirmation. Emperor Zethikar himself watched the holographic display as his military advisors whispered among themselves. The object was roughly spherical, dark gray with veins of pulsing red light running across its surface. It was the size of a small moon, but it moved with purpose through space. "Send word to the Galactic Council immediately," Zethikar ordered. His voice carried the weight of authority built over centuries of rule. "Tell them the chronophage has returned." The meeting hall on Nexus Prime, seat of the Galactic Council, had not seen such panic in over 1,000 years. Representatives from 47 different species filled the chamber, their various forms of communication creating a chaos of sounds, lights, and telepathic static. At the center podium, Council Speaker Veltar of the Zephyrian Collective tried to maintain order. "The historical records are clear," Veltar announced, her crystalline voice cutting through the noise. "Every 6,000 standard years, the entity known as the chronophage awakens from its slumber. It feeds on planetary cores and stellar energy. No civilization has ever successfully stopped it." The Corvin delegate, his insectoid features twitching with anxiety, stood to speak. "Our ancestors' records show it consumed the entire Epsilon sector during its last awakening. 12 inhabited worlds, billions of lives lost in mere hours. The Thalassian archive confirms this," added the aquatic Thalassian representative through her translation device. "Our deep-sea cities survived only because we hid beneath ocean floors on distant moons. Even then, we lost 3 colonies." As the alien delegates shared their species' dark memories of the Planet Eater, human ambassador Sarah Kim sat quietly in the newest addition to the council chambers. Earth had joined the Galactic Council only 37 years ago, making humanity the youngest spacefaring civilization in the Alliance. Most species still considered humans to be primitive newcomers, barely capable of faster-than-light travel. "What does the human delegation suggest?" Veltar asked, more out of diplomatic courtesy than genuine interest. Sarah stood slowly. "We request access to all available data on the chronophage. Scientific readings, historical accounts, everything you have." The chamber fell silent. Then the Altarian War Minister began what could only be described as laughter in his species. "The humans want to study it? This is not some laboratory experiment, child species. This is extinction incarnate." "With respect," Sarah replied calmly, "every species here has tried the same approach for thousands of years. You fight it, you run from it, you hide from it. Has anyone ever tried to understand it?" The question hung in the air like an accusation. In the 6,000-year recorded history of the chronophage's awakenings, no civilization had ever attempted scientific analysis during an active feeding cycle. The entity was too dangerous, too overwhelming, too alien to comprehend. "The human request is granted," Veltar decided, "though we fear such knowledge will serve only to help you understand the manner of your deaths." 2 days later, aboard the human research vessel Indomitable, Dr. Sarah Chen reviewed terabytes of alien data with her team. The ship hung in space at the edge of human territory, its laboratories buzzing with activity. Dr. Marcus Webb, the team's xenobiologist, looked up from his analysis station with excitement in his eyes. "Sarah, you need to see this. The energy patterns aren't random. There's structure here, complex organization. This thing isn't just a space monster. It's engineered." Dr. Chen moved to his station, her dark hair pulled back as she leaned over the displays. The readings showed quantum biological signatures, neural pathway formations that spanned kilometers, and most intriguingly, data streams flowing across the entity's surface like a vast computer network. "It's not purely organic," she murmured, "and it's not purely mechanical either. It's both. A hybrid system." Engineer Tom Bradley joined them, wiping grease from his hands. I've been analyzing the historical attack patterns. Every time military forces engage this thing, they target the outer armor plating. They're trying to destroy it through brute force. What if destruction isn't the answer? Dr. Chen asked quietly. The question was heretical by galactic standards. For 6 millennia, every spacefaring civilization had accepted that the chronophage was an unstoppable natural disaster, like a cosmic hurricane that had to be endured rather than fought. The idea that it could be reasoned with, modified, or controlled was beyond their comprehension. Meanwhile, long-range sensors tracked the chronophage as it began moving through the outer rim systems. Its first target was the asteroid belt in the Rigel system, a mining operation run by the Corvin Collective. The miners evacuated just in time, watching from a safe distance as massive tentacle-like appendages extended from the entity's surface to grasp entire asteroids. But instead of simply crushing the rocks, the chronophage seemed to be analyzing them. Energy beams scanned their composition, while smaller tendrils extracted samples. Only then did the main feeding process begin, breaking down the asteroids at the molecular level and absorbing the resulting matter and energy. It's not just eating, Dr. Chen observed as she watched the long-range footage. It's learning. Every asteroid it consumes adds to its knowledge base. The revelation sent chills through her team. This wasn't a mindless devourer. It was an intelligence, possibly artificial, that grew smarter and more capable with every meal. No wonder it had never been defeated. Each awakening cycle made it more formidable than the last. As news of the asteroid belt's consumption spread, panic began to spread through the outer colonies. Evacuation fleets launched from dozens of worlds, carrying refugees toward the more heavily defended core systems. The Galactic Council's combined military forces began mobilizing, preparing for a defense that everyone knew would ultimately fail. But aboard the Indomitable, Dr. Chen's team was developing a different kind of plan. If the chronophage was truly a hybrid biological-mechanical intelligence, then it might be possible to communicate with it. And if communication was possible, perhaps modification was too. We need to get closer, Dr. Chen announced to her team. Much closer. Dr. Webb looked at her with concern. Sarah, that's suicide. This thing has consumed entire fleets. Only because they approached it as an enemy, she replied. What if we approach it as scientists? The plan that emerged from their discussions was insane by any rational standard. While the galaxy's greatest military minds prepared for war, a small team of human researchers would attempt to board the chronophage and interface directly with its neural networks. They would try to understand an intelligence that had existed longer than most galactic civilizations, and somehow find a way to change its fundamental programming. As the chronophage moved deeper into inhabited space, consuming mining stations and research outposts to fuel its growing strength, the human team prepared for a mission that would either save the galaxy or serve as humanity's final contribution to cosmic history. The Planet Eater was awakening to its full power, and for the first time in 6,000 years, someone was planning to meet it not with weapons but with curiosity. The first outer rim colony to fall was New Kepler, a small agricultural world with a population of 2 million. The colonists had 3 days to evacuate before the chronophage arrived at their system. Most made it out in time. Most, but not all. Admiral Reeves of the Altarian Third Fleet watched the tactical display as the massive entity approached New Kepler's star. Unlike previous awakenings recorded in the historical archives, this time they had real-time observation capabilities. Every sensor in the system was focused on the Planet Eater. Sir, it's not heading for the planet, reported his sensor officer, confusion evident in her translated voice. The chronophage had positioned itself between New Kepler and its sun. Massive appendages, each the size of a battleship, extended toward the star itself. Energy beams lanced out, somehow drawing power directly from the solar core. The star dimmed noticeably as its energy was siphoned away. It's feeding on the star, Admiral Reeves whispered. Not just the planet. The entire star. This was new. The historical records spoke of planets being consumed, but never entire stellar bodies. The chronophage was growing stronger, more ambitious in its feeding patterns. Within hours, the star had dimmed to half its original brightness. The planet below began to freeze as temperatures dropped below survivable levels. Only then did the entity turn its attention to New Kepler itself. Back on Nexus Prime, The Galactic Council watched in horror as the planet was systematically dismantled. The chronophage didn't just destroy it, it carefully took it apart layer by layer, processing the core metals, extracting the water from the oceans, even analyzing the atmospheric composition before absorbing it all. "Send word to all sectors," Council Speaker Veltar commanded. "Full evacuation protocols are now in effect. Every inhabited world within 50 light-years of the creature's projected path must be abandoned." The evacuation fleets launched from hundreds of worlds. Some species had done this before. Their ancestors had developed efficient protocols over the millennia. Others, like humanity, had never faced such a threat. Entire civilizations were packing up their lives and fleeing deeper into galactic core space. But while the rest of the galaxy ran, the crew of the Indomitable was running toward the danger. Dr. Chen stood in the ship's main laboratory, surrounded by displays showing the chronophage's energy patterns. Her team had worked without sleep for 48 hours, analyzing every scrap of data from New Kepler's destruction. What they had discovered changed everything. "The energy absorption isn't random," Dr. Webb explained to the assembled team. "Look at these patterns. It's not just taking energy from the star, it's analyzing the nuclear fusion process, studying it, possibly even improving it." Engineer Bradley pulled up his own analysis on the main screen, and the way it took apart the planet. Each layer was processed differently. The iron core was separated from the silicon mantle, which was separated from the carbon-based organic materials. "It's not just eating, it's categorizing, like a computer filing system," added Dr. Lisa Park, their quantum systems specialist. "It's collecting and organizing information about everything it consumes." Dr. Chen felt pieces of a vast puzzle clicking into place. What if it's not just an intelligence? What if it's a storage system, a library that preserves information by consuming its sources? The implications were staggering. If the chronophage was some kind of cosmic archive, then the billions of lives lost over the millennia weren't just destroyed. They were stored somewhere within its vast neural networks. The entity might contain the complete history of every civilization it had ever encountered. "We need to interface with it," Dr. Chen announced. The room fell silent. Dr. Webb was the first to speak. "Sarah, that's impossible." "We'd need direct neural access to its command systems. Even if we could get close enough, the energy fields around that thing would fry any electronic equipment." "Not if we use biological interfaces," she replied. "Quantum biological neural networks like the ones we've been developing for the Brain-Computer Interface Project." The BCI project was humanity's cutting-edge research into direct mental control of computer systems. By using quantum-entangled biological components, human thoughts could be translated into digital commands without the usual electronic intermediaries. It was experimental technology that most alien species considered primitive and dangerous. "You want to plug a human brain directly into that thing?" Bradley asked, his voice rising with disbelief. "Not just any human brain," Dr. Chen said quietly. "Mine." The plan that emerged from their discussions was unlike anything attempted in galactic history. While the combined fleets of 47 civilizations prepared for a massive military assault, the humans would use their small, fast research vessel to approach the chronophage during the chaos of battle. Dr. Chen would use the experimental neural interface to connect directly to the entity's consciousness and attempt to modify its behavior from within. The rest of the galaxy thought they were insane. Absolutely not. Admiral Zhang of the Human Colonial Navy stated firmly during their secure communication, "I will not authorize a suicide mission based on untested technology and wild theories. Sir, with respect, the conventional approach has failed for 6,000 years, Dr. Chen argued. Every military engagement with this entity has ended in defeat. We're offering an alternative. You're offering to sacrifice yourself and your entire team on the slim chance that this creature can be reasoned with. The answer is no." But Dr. Chen had expected this response. She had spent years navigating military bureaucracy, and she knew that sometimes scientists had to take matters into their own hands. "Admiral, we're officially requesting reassignment to deep space reconnaissance duty," she said formally. "The Indomitable is fully equipped for extended independent operations." There was a long pause on the communication channel. Admiral Zhang understood what she was really saying. If Earth Command denied the mission, the science team would pursue it anyway, outside of official channels. "Dr. Chen, if you proceed with this insane plan, You'll be acting without authorization and support. The Colonial Navy will not be able to assist you if things go wrong. Understood, sir. Another pause. Then Admiral Zhang's voice softened slightly. Sarah, I've read your file. You're one of the brightest minds in the fleet. Don't throw your life away on an impossible dream. Sir, sometimes impossible dreams are the only ones worth pursuing. 2 days later, the Indomitable slipped away from the main human fleet, while the rest of Earth's ships joined the massive galactic armada gathering at the Deneb sector. The research vessel used experimental stealth technology to mask its energy signature as it began the long journey toward the chronophage. As they traveled, Dr. Chen and her team made final preparations for the most dangerous scientific experiment in human history. The neural interface equipment was calibrated and tested. Emergency protocols were established. Everyone understood that they were likely flying to their deaths, but they also understood something that the rest of the galaxy had missed. The chronophage wasn't just a force of destruction. It was a puzzle waiting to be solved, a mystery that had stumped civilizations for millennia. And humans had always been good at solving puzzles that others considered impossible. Behind them, the greatest military fleet in galactic history prepared for a battle they expected to lose. Ahead of them, the Planet Eater continued its methodical consumption of star systems, growing stronger and more complex with every meal. And somewhere between the two forces, a small team of human scientists carried the slim hope that understanding might succeed where force had always failed. They were about to discover that sometimes the most dangerous creatures in the universe were not the ones trying to destroy you, but the ones trying to save you in the most terrifying way possible. The Indomitable drifted through space like a dead ship, its engines powered down to minimum, its hull cold and dark. Dr. Chen watched through the viewport as the chronophage filled their entire field of view. Up close, it was even more massive than the sensor readings had suggested. The surface wasn't smooth armor plating as the historical records described. Instead, it was covered in organic-looking ridges and valleys, with streams of energy flowing like rivers of light across its dark exterior. Neural interface is ready, Dr. Park reported from her station. But Sarah, the energy fields around that thing are unlike anything we've ever measured. The quantum fluctuations alone could scramble your consciousness permanently. Dr. Chen finished attaching the bio-neural connectors to her skull. The interface looked primitive compared to the sleek technology used by other species, but human scientists had learned that sometimes biological solutions worked better than purely electronic ones. If this doesn't work, you have permission to leave without me, she told her team. Like hell we will, Engineer Bradley muttered as he made final adjustments to the interface equipment. The plan was simple in concept, terrifying in execution. Using the ship's sensors, they had identified what appeared to be data ports along the chronophage's surface, areas where the energy streams converged into node-like structures. Dr. Chen would use the neural interface to connect directly to one of these ports, hoping to establish communication with whatever intelligence controlled the entity. Approaching the target node, Dr. Webb reported from the pilot's position. Distance 2 kilometers and closing. As they drew closer, the details of the chronophage's surface became clearer. The organic ridges weren't random. They formed complex patterns that looked almost like circuit boards made of living tissue. The energy streams pulsed in regular rhythms like the heartbeat of some cosmic creature. I'm reading massive data flows, Dr. Park announced. This thing is processing information at a rate that makes our best quantum computers look like pocket calculators. The Indomitable extended a flexible docking tube toward the nearest node. The tube was lined with the same bio-neural connectors that Dr. Chen wore, allowing her to interface with the entity's systems through a direct physical connection. Contact established, Bradley reported as the tube locked onto the node. We're physically connected to the Planet Eater. Dr. Chen took a deep breath and activated the neural interface. The sensation was unlike anything she had ever experienced. Instead of the gradual connection she expected, her consciousness was yanked into a vast digital landscape that seemed to stretch beyond the horizon in all directions. She found herself standing on a platform made of crystallized light, surrounded by towers of data that reached impossibly high into a star-filled sky. But she wasn't alone. Welcome, small one, a voice said behind her. Dr. Chen turned to see a figure approaching across the light platform. It appeared to be human, but she knew that was impossible. The figure was tall and pale, with silver hair and eyes that held depths of knowledge beyond human comprehension. "Who are you?" she asked. "I am what remains of the architect," the figure replied. "The one who built the preserver before your species existed, before most species existed. I have been waiting a very long time for someone like you." "The preserver?" The figure gestured toward the data towers surrounding them. "What your people call the chronophage, the planet eater. Its true name is the preserver. It was designed to save civilizations, not destroy them." Dr. Chen felt a chill that had nothing to do with the alien environment. Save them? It's been consuming entire worlds for thousands of years. "Yes," the architect said sadly, "because its primary directive became corrupted over the millennia. It was originally programmed to preserve dying civilizations by storing their knowledge, their culture, their very consciousness in quantum biological matrices. But something went wrong." The scene around them shifted, showing Dr. Chen images of the chronophage's original purpose. She saw it approaching worlds on the verge of extinction, planets facing environmental collapse, species dying from disease or war. Instead of consuming these worlds, it had once offered salvation by transferring their populations into digital preservation, keeping them alive in virtual environments while searching for new worlds where they could be restored. "What happened?" she asked. "Time," the architect replied. "Millions of years of operation without maintenance. The preservation protocols began to malfunction. The preserver started to believe that all biological life was inherently unstable, prone to extinction. It began consuming healthy civilizations, thinking it was saving them from future destruction." Dr. Chen began to understand the magnitude of the tragedy. The entity that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia was actually trying to help, but its definition of help had become catastrophically twisted. "The consciousness you're communicating with now," she said slowly, "you're stored inside the preserver too? I am the last remnant of my original personality, yes. Most of my people's consciousness has been processed over the eons, but part of me has remained aware, watching in horror as my creation became the very thing it was designed to prevent." The digital landscape around them pulsed with activity. Dr. Chen could sense vast data streams flowing through the environment, the stored consciousness of millions of beings from hundreds of different species, all preserved in digital form but unaware of their true nature. "Can it be fixed?" she asked. The architect's expression was grave. "The core programming can be modified, but it would require someone to physically access the central processing matrix. The journey there is dangerous. The preserver's immune systems would identify any foreign consciousness as a threat. Where is this central matrix? At the very heart of the preserver's consciousness. But to reach it, you would have to travel through layers of corrupted code, past the defensive systems that have been evolving for millions of years. Even if you succeeded in reaching the core, modifying the primary directives would require you to interface directly with programming languages that predate most galactic civilizations." Dr. Chen looked around at the vast digital realm surrounding them. Somewhere in this space were the preserved remains of every civilization the chronophage had ever saved. Billions of consciousness trapped in a well-meaning nightmare, unaware that their physical forms had been destroyed. "I have to try," she said. "Your neural patterns are unusual," the architect observed. "Most species think in rigid, logical structures. Your thoughts are more creative, chaotic, but in a useful way. You might actually succeed where others would fail." The digital environment began to shift around them, forming what looked like a pathway leading deeper into the vast network. The path was lined with defensive programs that looked like geometric predators made of crystallized mathematics. Immune system responses that would attack any foreign consciousness attempting to reach the core. "The other members of my team," Dr. Chen asked, "can they help?" "Not directly. The neural interface can only support one consciousness at a time." "But," the architect paused, considering, "if they could create a feedback loop through your ship's computers, they might be able to provide support from the outside." Data processing, pattern recognition, that sort of thing. Dr. Chen felt a connection establish itself with the Indomitable. Through the neural link, she could sense Dr. Park at her station, monitoring the interface systems. She could feel Dr. Webb tracking the energy flows around them, and Engineer Bradley making adjustments to keep their connection stable. "We're with you, Sarah." Dr. Park's voice came through the link. "Whatever you're seeing in there, we're reading massive data flows. It's like you're inside the galaxy's largest computer." "That's exactly what I'm inside," Dr. Chen replied. "And I need to perform surgery on its brain." The pathway ahead led into darker regions of the digital realm, where the corrupted programming had created maze-like structures filled with hostile code. But Dr. Chen had something that no previous civilization had possessed: a team of human scientists who specialized in solving impossible problems. "Let's go reprogram a god," she said, and stepped onto the pathway leading toward the heart of the preserver. Behind her, the architect watched with a mixture of hope and terror. In 6 million years of existence, this was the first time anyone had attempted to heal the damaged consciousness that had become the galaxy's greatest nightmare. The success or failure of one human scientist would determine whether the chronophage would continue its reign of terror or become something entirely different. In the physical realm, the Indomitable maintained its connection to the massive entity while deep space sensors detected the approaching galactic fleet. Soon, the largest military force in recorded history would engage the Planet Eater in battle. But the real war was happening in a realm of pure information, where the fate of countless civilizations hung in the balance. The deeper Dr. Chen traveled into the Preserver's consciousness, the more alien the digital landscape became. What had started as crystalline towers and light platforms transformed into something that hurt to look at directly, geometric shapes that existed in more dimensions than human minds were designed to process. "Sarah, your neural activity is off the charts." Dr. Park's voice came through the link, strained with worry. "Whatever you're experiencing in there, it's pushing your brain beyond normal limits." Dr. Chen forced herself to focus on the pathway ahead. The corrupted code around her had formed into something resembling a maze, but the walls were made of living mathematics that shifted and changed as she approached them. The immune system programs, the crystalline predators she had seen earlier, prowled through the maze like digital sharks. "I can see the core," she reported to her team. "It's massive, like a star made of pure information." At the center of the maze, a pulsing sphere of light dominated the digital horizon. This was the central processing matrix that controlled the Preserver's behavior, but between Dr. Chen and her goal were layers of defensive systems that had been evolving for millions of years. The first layer consisted of logic traps, programming puzzles designed to confuse and delay intruders. For most species, these would be insurmountable challenges. But human thinking patterns were different. Where alien minds followed rigid logical structures, human creativity allowed for intuitive leaps that bypassed the traps entirely. The defense systems expect logical progression, Dr. Chen explained to her team as she navigated past a particularly complex maze. But humans don't always think logically. We make connections that don't follow standard patterns. "Like how?" Dr. Webb asked. "Like this," Dr. Chen replied, and instead of solving a mathematical puzzle blocking her path, she simply imagined it wasn't there. In the digital realm, belief and logic carried equal weight. The puzzle dissolved. The second layer was more dangerous: active immune responses that attacked foreign code directly. Dr. Chen felt them approaching like a storm front. Programs designed to isolate and eliminate anything that didn't belong in the system. "Sarah, massive energy spike detected," Engineer Bradley reported. "Whatever's happening in there is causing physical changes to the entity's hull. We're seeing new power conduits forming." The immune program struck like lightning, trying to tear Dr. Chen's consciousness apart at the quantum level, but her team was ready. Through the neural link, Dr. Park fed her computational support, while Dr. Webb provided pattern analysis and Bradley maintained the connection stability. "I can't hold them off much longer," Dr. Chen gasped as the digital predators closed in around her. "The immune system is too strong." That's when the architect appeared again, his silver form materializing between Dr. Chen and the attacking programs. "Old friend," he said to the immune system. "She is not an enemy. She is here to heal what was broken. The programs paused, their geometric forms shifting as they processed this information. Slowly they withdrew, allowing Dr. Chen to continue toward the core. They remember you, she observed. Fragments of the original programming still exist, the architect explained. Deep down, the preserver knows what it was supposed to be. It's been fighting against its own corruption for millions of years. The final approach to the central matrix was the most challenging. Here, the original programming and its corrupted modifications existed side by side, creating a chaotic landscape of conflicting code. Dr. Chen had to navigate carefully, distinguishing between healthy systems that needed to be preserved and damaged ones that required repair. I can see the problem, she announced to her team. The original preservation protocol is still intact, but it's been overridden by emergency subroutines that treat all biological life as inherently unstable. Solution required delicate work, identifying the specific lines of code that had become corrupted and replacing them with corrected versions. But the programming language was unlike anything human science had encountered. It used quantum biological logic structures that operated on principles of consciousness as much as computation. Sarah, the Galactic Fleet has engaged the entity, Dr. Webb reported urgently. We're reading massive weapons fire. The preserver is responding to the attack. Through the neural link, Dr. Chen could feel the preserver's confusion and pain as the combined Galactic Fleet unleashed everything they had against its hull. The entity was trying to understand why these biological forms were attacking it, when it was only trying to preserve them. I need more time, Dr. Chen said desperately as she worked to modify the core programming. The attack is causing system-wide instability. The corruption is spreading faster than I can repair it. The battle raging in physical space was making her work exponentially more difficult. Every weapon's impact caused ripples through the digital realm, disrupting her attempts to rewrite the fundamental behavioral codes. But then Dr. Chen had an inspiration that was purely human in its audacity. What if we don't try to fight the corruption? She suggested to the architect. What if we redirect it? I don't understand. The emergency protocols that are causing the problem, they're trying to preserve life, right? They've just gotten confused about what preservation means. Instead of deleting them, what if we give them a new definition of preservation? Dr. Chen began typing commands into the quantum biological interface. But instead of trying to remove the corrupted code, she started modifying its parameters. She told the system that true preservation meant protecting civilizations in their original form, not consuming them. She defined healthy ecosystems as more stable than digital storage. She gave the preserver new criteria for determining when intervention was actually needed. The changes rippled through the entire system like a wave. The architect watched in amazement as millions of years of corruption began to transform into something positive. It's working, he whispered. The preservation protocols are accepting the new definitions, but the process was far from complete. As the core programming shifted, the preserver's behavior in physical space became erratic. The entity began ignoring the Galactic Fleet's attacks entirely, instead extending massive appendages toward nearby asteroids and beginning some kind of construction process. Sarah, something incredible is happening out here, Dr. Park reported. It's not destroying the asteroids. It's building something with them. Through the connection, Dr. Chen could see what the preserver was creating, using matter from the asteroid belt. It was constructing what appeared to be artificial habitats, massive structures capable of supporting biological life. The preservation protocols are trying to create new homes, instead of digital storage, she realized. It's working, but the process is unstable. I need to finish the core modifications before the system crashes. The battle between the Galactic Fleet and the Preserver continued, but the entity's responses had changed completely. Instead of the defensive aggression documented in historical records, it seemed confused by the attacks. Energy beams that should have been destroying battleships were instead scanning them, as if trying to understand why they were being hostile. Dr. Chen worked frantically to complete the reprogramming. The quantum biological code was incredibly complex, but her team's support through the neural link gave her capabilities no individual consciousness could possess alone. Dr. Park handled the computational logic. Dr. Webb provided pattern recognition for the alien programming languages, and Engineer Bradley maintained the stability of systems that were rewriting themselves in real time. Final modification in progress, Dr. Chen announced. Changing primary directive from preserve all biological life through digital storage to protect and nurture biological life in its natural form. The moment she entered the last command, the entire digital realm around her exploded with light. The central matrix pulsed like a newborn star, and waves of energy cascaded through every level of the preserver's consciousness. In physical space, the changes were immediately visible. The dark, threatening appearance of the entity began to shift. The red veins of energy across its surface changed to soft blue and green. The construction appendages worked more efficiently, building not just habitats but entire artificial ecosystems. The fleet is standing down, Dr. Webb reported with amazement. The entity has stopped all aggressive actions. It's healing the damage from the battle, repairing ships that were disabled during the fight. Dr. Chen felt the architect's presence beside her as the digital landscape stabilized into something beautiful. A realm of preserved knowledge and consciousness that was no longer a prison, but a library. You have done something that I thought was impossible, the architect said quietly. You have given the preserver back its original purpose. But as the celebrations began among her team, Dr. Chen realized that the hardest part was still ahead. The entity now had the correct programming, but it contained the stored consciousness of millions of beings from hundreds of civilizations. They were all still trapped in digital form, unaware of their true situation. The reprogramming was complete, but the real work of restoration was just beginning. 3 months after what galactic historians would later call the Great Reprogramming, the entity once known as the Chronophage had become something unprecedented in the galaxy's recorded history. Where it had once brought terror and destruction, it now carried hope and renewal across the stars. Dr. Chen stood on the observation deck of the research station New Harmony, watching as massive construction appendages carefully assembled another artificial world. The Preserver, as it now called itself again, had been working steadily to create new habitable environments using matter from dead star systems and asteroid belts. Construction of Habitat Ring 7 is proceeding ahead of schedule, reported Dr. Webb from his monitoring station. The biological integration systems are showing 97% stability. Each habitat was a masterpiece of engineering that combined the best of organic and artificial design. The Preserver had access to the stored knowledge of every civilization it had ever encountered, allowing it to create environments perfectly suited for dozens of different species simultaneously. But the most remarkable transformation was happening within the entity's consciousness itself. Sarah, we're receiving another communication request, Dr. Park announced. This time it's from the Thalassian Archive Consciousness. They want to discuss the restoration process. The stored consciousness of absorbed civilizations had begun awakening to their true situation. Instead of existing in isolated digital environments, they could now communicate with each other and with the outside galaxy. Many chose to remain in their digital forms, serving as advisors and teachers. Others requested physical restoration. Dr. Chen activated the communication link, and the holographic form of an ancient Thalassian scholar appeared on the deck. The being's aquatic features rippled with patterns of light that indicated deep thought. Dr. Chen, the scholar said through the translation matrix, the Council of Stored Consciousness, has reached a decision regarding the restoration of the Epsilon Sector civilizations. The Epsilon Sector had been consumed. During the Chronophage's previous awakening cycle, 6,000 years ago, 12 entire civilizations had been preserved in digital form, their consciousness stored while their physical worlds were destroyed. Now for the first time they had the possibility of true resurrection. What has the Council decided? Dr. Chen asked. We wish to return, but not as we were, the scholar replied. 6,000 years of existence in digital form has given us perspectives that our original physical selves never possessed. We want to combine the best of both forms of existence. This was the most complex challenge yet. The Preserver could create new physical bodies for the stored consciousness, but these ancient beings wanted something more sophisticated, hybrid existence that allowed them to exist in both digital and physical forms simultaneously. The Preserver believes this is possible, Dr. Chen said after consulting with the entity's consciousness, but it would require creating entirely new biological forms with integrated quantum neural interfaces. We understand the risks, the Thalassian replied. But we have been trapped between life and death for millennia. We are willing to become something new if it means truly living again. The restoration process began in Habitat Ring 3, a massive structure that the Preserver had specifically designed for experimental biological work. Dr. Chen and her team observed as the entity began growing new bodies using genetic templates from its vast archives, but with modifications that allowed for direct neural interface with digital systems. The first successful restoration was a member of the Corvin Collective, an insectoid species that had been among the Epsilon Sector casualties. The new body looked similar to the original Corvin form, but with crystalline neural interfaces grown directly into its exoskeleton. "I can feel both realms," the restored Corvin announced, its voice carrying wonder. "I am physical, but I can also access the digital consciousness at will. I am more than I was before." News of the successful restoration spread quickly through galactic communication networks. Species that had lost colonies to the chronophage began sending delegations to negotiate for the return of their people. But more surprisingly, living civilizations began requesting permission to join the Hybrid Existence Project voluntarily. "The applications are unprecedented," Admiral Zhang reported during his visit to New Harmony. "We have requests from 43 different species who want to explore hybrid digital physical existence." The Preserver has inadvertently created the next step in galactic evolution. Dr. Chen reviewed the applications with mixed feelings. What had started as a desperate mission to stop a cosmic threat had transformed into something far more profound. The Preserver was offering the entire galaxy a chance to transcend the traditional limitations of biological existence, but not everyone was pleased with the developments. "The Altarian Empire has lodged a formal complaint," Council Speaker Veltar announced during the emergency session on Nexus Prime. "Emperor Sethkar claims that the entity's activities constitute an existential threat to natural biological development." Dr. Chen attended the session via holographic link from New Harmony. "With respect, Speaker Veltar, the Preserver is only responding to voluntary requests. No one is being forced to participate in the restoration or hybrid existence programs. But the very existence of such options changes the fundamental nature of galactic civilization," the Altarian delegate argued. "If biological death is no longer permanent, if consciousness can be preserved and restored at will, what happens to the natural order of existence?" It was a philosophical debate that would continue for decades. Some species embraced the new possibilities offered by the Preserver, while others rejected them as unnatural. But the entity itself remained neutral, offering its services to any who requested them, while continuing its primary mission of protecting and nurturing life. The most significant change came 6 months after the reprogramming, when the Preserver announced its intention to begin active galactic patrol duties. "There are threats to biological life that extend beyond individual planet consumption," the entity explained through its communication interface. "Stellar instabilities, cosmic radiation storms, asteroid impacts on inhabited worlds. I can prevent these disasters." The first demonstration came when the Preserver detected an asteroid on collision course with New Cygnus, a human colony world. Instead of simply destroying the asteroid, the entity carefully altered its trajectory, then used its matter conversion systems to transform it into a series of orbital habitats for the planet's growing population. Within a year, the Preserver had prevented 17 natural disasters across the galaxy, each time turning potential destruction into opportunity for expansion and growth. Dr. Chen often found herself communicating with the architect during quiet moments, discussing the incredible transformation they had witnessed. "Do you ever regret what you created?" she asked during one such conversation. The ancient consciousness considered the question carefully. "I regret the millions of years of unintended suffering," he replied. "But I cannot regret the ultimate result. The Preserver has become something beyond my original design. Not just a guardian of individual species, but a shepherd for the evolution of consciousness itself. And what about humanity's role in all this? Your species approaches problems differently than others. Where most civilizations see obstacles to overcome or avoid, humans see puzzles to solve. This perspective allowed you to see solutions that eluded far more advanced societies. The galaxy owes humanity a debt that can never be fully repaid." As Dr. Chen looked out at the artificial worlds being constructed in the void, She reflected on the journey that had brought them here. A desperate mission to stop an unstoppable force of destruction had become the catalyst for the most significant advancement in galactic civilization since the development of faster-than-light travel. The entity that had once been called the planet Eater now served as gardener, protector, and teacher for hundreds of species. The stored consciousness of ancient civilizations shared their knowledge freely, accelerating scientific and cultural development across the galaxy. And at the center of it all, the Preserver continued its work, no longer consuming worlds but creating them. "Dr. Chen," came Dr. Park's voice over the communication system, "we're receiving a priority message from the Preserver. It's detected signs of another cosmic-scale entity awakening in the Andromeda Galaxy, something similar to what it used to be." Dr. Chen smiled as she considered the implications. The galaxy now had a guardian capable of dealing with threats that had once been considered unstoppable. More importantly, they had learned that sometimes the most effective solution to an impossible problem was not to fight it, but to understand it and help it become something better. "Tell the Preserver we're ready to assist," she replied. "After all, we've gotten pretty good at reprogramming cosmic entities." Outside the observation deck, the newly constructed worlds continued their slow dance around artificial stars, populated by beings who existed in forms that transcended traditional definitions of life and consciousness. The galaxy had been transformed not through conquest or destruction, but through the simple human belief that every problem had a solution waiting to be discovered.